Good afternoon, coalitions. Thank you so much for your attendance on our God Outcomes Coalition of Excellence Award application webinar. I would like to introduce you to myself. My name is Kay Wood. I am the evaluation and have a pretty rich history with CADCA and with community coalitions. I've done coalition evaluations in the past as well as attended NCA. I have a very strong community development background. And I would like to also introduce you to my colleague, Ms. Cassandra Cannon.
Hi,
my colleague, Ms. Cassandra Cannon.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Cannon. I also have a history working with coalitions at a more local level in New York State. Before I came here on board at CADCA, I am a coalition development associate. So I will be working in providing support for all coalitions.
Fantastic. And our third colleague is Ms. Carolina Deuce. She is the Evaluation and Research Senior Associate. And you may recognize her if you've applied to God Outcomes before. She ran the program last year. And she's here to kind of assist us with any questions you guys may have. So she'll be back in a minute. We'll move on. First here we have a few generalized instructions. I would ask that everyone mute the audio on your telephone unless you're speaking. We'll have a slight question and answer session for the last 5 or 10 minutes where you'll have to press *1 to unmute your phone. For the most part, unless you need to interject anywhere, we ask that you mute your audio. We also have a conversation box, so you're more than welcome to text any questions or hands up that you have. Next, it's important to note that you must be a member of CADCA in order to qualify for a God Outcomes Award. So, I'd like to share with you some of the benefits of being a member of CADCA. We have lots of very informative communications that go out regularly, as well as receiving discounted registration rates to our forum and Mid-Year Training Institute. We also provide affinity programs, etc. And you have permission to use the CADCA logo for your branding purposes. You know, being a part of CADCA and being a member of CADCA goes beyond these benefits that you see here. It says you're a part of a larger movement, and you accept a higher level of accountability in your work. So join CADCA today. Next, I'd like to discuss with you some of the goals of the God Outcomes Award program. The goal of God Outcomes is recognizing coalitions that achieve measurable success in community-level substance abuse prevention outcomes by implementing a comprehensive and feasible plan guided by local data, such as that picture that includes program practice and policy changes. God Outcomes is sponsored by the National Coalition Institute, which was founded in 2002 by an act of Congress. And its overall aim is to develop coalitions to be more effective through training and technical assistance and through the application of the Strategic Prevention Framework, which is also pictured above. CADCA believes that effective coalitions are those that can link changes in initial assessment outcomes. The evidence of that are the reductions and improvements, and that is what becomes your God Outcomes Award Program application. Lastly, photoed here, you see that God Outcomes culminates at the National Leadership Forum. This is where winners are able to bring as many stages they can to get taken with General Lee. There's fantastic dinner, entertainment. Hey, we even got a photo booth. It's a really fun way to kind of wrap up this whole process. God Outcomes has 3 award categories. You can elect to highlight your short-term outcomes, your intermediate outcomes, or your long-term outcomes, as well as those who have those who have addressed two significant areas of substance abuse, two significant changes in long-term outcomes in two areas of substance abuse will be eligible for our Coalition of the Year Award. So that's a higher distinction. God Outcomes Prestigious Awards provide certain benefits as those listed above. However, they also enable you to get on CADCA's radar. So it's not just about winning the trophy or the awesome video that you get, but application provides you CADCA visibility from all departments. You'll be in contact with our Coalition Development Department for training and technical assistance. You may even speak with someone from marketing if you become a semifinalist. And so this definitely gets you visibility with CADCA internally. Our online communications get disseminated to 25,000 people weekly. So a feature in there really publicizes your work on another level. Also, all semifinalists will receive a formal recognition letter from our chairman and CEO, or to throw in communications documents, just to show that you are a part of a larger movement. All right, so I will now go over the application process. I emailed out to you guys step by step, and then after that, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. So it would be helpful to have the materials pulled up in front of you, specifically if you have any questions. Generally speaking, CADCA coalitions will use these Phase 1 webinars to connect with CADCA and express intent to apply, and also receive basic guidance. The application deadline for Phase 1 is June 15th by midnight. CADCA will select semifinalists the week of July 30th and let you guys know, as well as we will begin working with semifinalists beginning August 6th through the 23rd to improve their Phase 1 applications and submit applications. Phase 2 applications are due on August 29th, at which point scoring will commence and winners will be notified around mid-September, and we'll start organizing travel and registration arrangements. All right. So we're going to talk first about the Phase 1 application process as a whole. First, you want to get into selecting an award category, which we'll give you more guidance on in a sec. And then you want to get it. It's a two-part process because we take a lot of pride in providing you guys feedback to get the best Phase 2 application that we can. Also, the PowerPoint is available, the application is available in a PowerPoint format to give you a consumable product that you can use, for your future work, to present to stakeholders, to speak with potential funders. Basically gives you a consumable, reusable document that you can edit and it can grow with you through the life of your work. For the review process, it's important to know that feedback is only given to Phase 1 applicants who request it. So if you move through the award cycle and you are a semifinalist and you would like your feedback from your Phase 1 application, once you are requesting that, you're expressing your intent to do a Phase 2 application, and at that point you'll be provided feedback. If you do not request it, feedback will not be emailed to all of the Phase 1 applicants, just the semifinalists who request and Phase 1 applicants who request. In selecting an award category, you just want to make sure to select the youth substance abuse issues that your coalition has successfully addressed and has the most sound data to like to take those outcomes, identifying if they're short-term, intermediate, or long-term, and put them into your PowerPoint presentation as so. Some of the important questions to consider are what trend data that you have for your outcome. What trend data that you have for your outcome measures. You want to be highlighting those that you have the most data to represent the change in order to create the most sound argument for the intervention strategy that you use. The first part of the PowerPoint format are the title and background slides, which introduce us to your, typically include community sectors that have been most engaged in the coalition work that you've highlighted. So we'd like to see how you leveraged your community partners in order to achieve this change, and you use the title and background slides to introduce us and create that picture for us. We'd like to see outcomes in the target population. So if your outcome is specifically for 12th graders, it would appear a weaker change compared to a coalition that showed a change in, for example, the entire population. And so you want to, we're going to get into the breakdown of the data and intervention in a second as well. Here we have an example slide from a previous winner. You'll find a logo, which you definitely want to include, as well as the person who's applying for the role and their contact information, the outcomes that you plan to highlight and long-term outcomes, and a brief synopsis. Basically, this becomes a brief synopsis of the story that you'll tell later. You'll see here that they introduced us to their community. And so they included some demographic information in their community. And so they included some demographic information, basically the population, and also the income, which is important because this slide exists to describe to us the community dynamics that allow for substance abuse. Know specifically what exists in your community that allows a substance abuse issue to thrive. So you see, they included a lot of information that kind of sets the scene for the substance abuse story that's to play out in later slides. Next, we'll get into the big picture overview slide, and the data intervention slide. This is how your big picture overview template will look. Cassandra's going to go through the best approach to inserting information into the graphic. We do teach this in the National Coalition Academy, but in short, it describes the problem, why that problem is occurring, and what it looks like specifically in your community. So this is the local condition. The local condition needs to be something that's observable, which keeps you from using an idea or viewpoint evidential. We like to say if you can take a picture of it, it's the best depiction of the local condition, and this helps to show multiple tiers to the factors that are mitigating the problem that you've identified. Many communities have the same problems and share root causes, but the local condition tells us what it looks like for your community, so what makes it different. The big picture overview slide basically informs and substantiates the strategies that you'll show us later on the intervention slide template.
So, this is Cassandra. So we're going to get into the logistics of this logic model within the next slides. So this is an example of a logic model that was filled out. You can see that there is a correct option and an incorrect, or that the local conditions you identify are specific, identifiable, and actionable. So although the incorrect option may seem like it pinpoints something specifically happening in that community, It does not give a specific behavior that someone is engaging in that paints the picture of how exactly it is happening. So if you look at the correct example, retail establishments do not check IDs when used to purchase alcohol. It's giving a specific behavior that is happening with the retail establishments. However, you still want to be as specific as you can if you have data to support where exactly this is happening, what retail establishments are not checking IDs. That is a better way to do that. Even if drinking occurs at community festivals, it doesn't give us as a specific of an example. A better way to reword that, alcohol servers maybe are providing alcohol, or maybe it's parents providing alcohol, or friends and siblings over 21 are the ones providing alcohol to use at these community events. So again, you want to have that specific behavior. And in local condition number 2, when it says they believe that parents believe it is safer for youth to drink at home, again, believe it is safer is not a specific behavior. What are parents doing that would make it appear safer in the home? Are they specifically providing the alcohol to be used at their home and taking away the keys, etc.? So here is an example of what a line of logic would look like. So with the problem statement, you want to provide one problem statement for each identified community issue. Some applicants may include 2 if they are applying for the coalition to be here. So the problem statement names only one problem behavior or condition. It doesn't place blame, solutions. It is described in terms of a specific behavior or community condition, and it is measurable, and you have data to support it. So that's why it needs to be overall, like underage drinking would be considered an overall problem that you could include. And then the pieces of measures. So an example of that could be 30-day use versus perception of risk. But they can't be from the same source, maybe utilizing the youth survey. However, at least 3 data sources must be used in the entire application, and you need at least 2 different measures of data for each state documents the behavior or condition described in the problem statement. It is from a different measure than the other piece of data provided and is provided at the community level. A data source and baseline year are all included. And then in the local condition, make sure each local condition is addressed. Make sure each local condition is addressed using a complementary and comprehensive selection of interventions or strategies, as you can see at the end of the slide. You need 4 to 5 strategies with at least 1 focusing on environmental level change, and these are all based. And then at least 3 of the strategies used by the coalition, so used by you, to specifically target the local condition. The coalition selected strategies that are logically aligned with the data describing that local condition and the root cause that it addresses. So here is an example filled out of one line of logic from the Valley County Coalition. You can see that they utilize different data measures and sources. But if you look at a condition that says friends over 21 supply alcohol to minors at house parties on weekends, data point 2 would probably not be considered as strong of a data measure. The local condition about friends over 21 supplying to their underage retailers. So this would probably be confusing to people, this data point, as it says 89% of key informant interviews indicated no violations for underage purchasing. That wouldn't specifically pinpoint that friends over 21 are the ones buying it instead of underage youth. So you'd think that more strongly correlates with the fact that friends are not supplying that alcohol. And then you can see that this is also an example that they have 5 strategies that they implemented. So you want to make sure that you only include the strategies that you've implemented and describe the local conditions that logically align with it. So here's again the overall components of a logic model. You want to state the main problem, then the local conditions that are unique to the community that drive these root causes. When describing local conditions, you want to be careful to describe things that are measurable and stay away from describing perceptions or opinions. If it isn't something that you can see or take a picture of, then it likely falls into that trivial danger zone. If it can be photographed, it's hard to deny it. So, leave no questions left unanswered. Quality conditions would be, what does it look like? What is really happening? Why is it happening? And how does it happen specifically in your community? Okay, so here is another example of local conditions that may not be as good or are good. So describing a perception or attitude. Parents don't think marijuana is harmful. A better way would be to describe the behavior. Parents smoke marijuana in front of their children. Or describing a general behavior. Drinking alcohol is a rite of passage. A better way is to describe that specific behavior of there are youth parties after winning a game. Describing a lack of resource. There is no education not to describe behavior resulting from the lack of resource. Youth share their prescription drugs at school. So I wanted to give more examples of data that you could use, going beyond those student surveys and also utilize in your logic models and in your applications. So here's an example of some of them. There's environmental scanning, which is just going out into the environment specifically and kind of taking a picture of areas that you think may be problem areas, maybe where youth are using, maybe where parties are happening and things like that, and being able to evaluate that data. Focus groups, going into schools and pinpointing some youth out to try and ask specific questions that the youth survey data wouldn't have been able to. Archival data that the community is already collecting. Maybe you can reach out to your local police department and ask them if they have data based on how many parties that they've seen happen on the weekends, etc. Interviews. You can do key informant interviews with specific people in the community to get more information. And then you can also do community surveys. We talk a lot about the youth survey in schools, but it's also probably good practice to do a community survey with adults to see where they think things are happening, as well as what the youth think are happening in the community.
So as stated before, you want to use at least 3 data sources in your entire presentation. So we really wanted to give you days so that you can diversify your sources a bit. Student surveys are going to be our most reliable data, but in terms of applying it to our local condition, you have to take it a step further because they're going to have their limitations. For one, they don't take into account the local context. Focus group will. So it's not a perfect world. Each piece of data is going to have its pros and cons, and you just want to pair them together so that they complement each other in order to depict your outcome. So next we're going to look at some outcome slides. Basically, These are the charts and the types of charts and graphs that you want to include in your presentation. We want to make a note that you only include charts for the significant community change indicators. So if you are discussing past 30-day use in high schoolers, it's not enough to just provide data for the high school population. This group actually aggregated their data by grade level to provide more context to the youth. Quality over quantity in this area, guys. You want to include graphs that most comprehensively depict what you're showing. One good graph is better than four not so good ones. So just keep that in mind. Here are a list of the application resources that are available on the cadca.org/GotOutcomes webpage. We have first the application announcement. Next up, we have our PowerPoint presentation requirements, which will have some modifications in it. So I forwarded that to the attendees list with the most recent version, and it will be available on the website this afternoon. So in the next upcoming days, you're welcome to download. On the website this afternoon. So in the next upcoming days, you're welcome to download that version from there for your reference. You'll also find an updated timeline as well as the 7 strategies document in case you need to remind yourself of the strategies that you implemented. Next, we have the big picture overview and data intervention starter template. So you don't need to create those boxes and the colors the way we have. You can just download those templates and drop your information in. And then we have a general definitions document. Got Outcomes is full of a lot of jargon that some people may use interchangeably, and so to get everybody on the same page, we included a definitions document. And lastly, this logic model guidance is a checklist, somewhat like a rubric, just to use to compare to your final Phase 1 application before you submit it, to ensure that you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's. So what next? Well, we use resources carefully, and then connect with your data committee to see, to have a discussion about your outcomes and see what supporting data you have. I suggest during this time that you look through any, folders you have on the computer for any presentations that have been used in the past. Searching .ppt will help you pull up any graphics that you've used previously. Try to compile these so that you aren't drawing up a lot of graphs and charts from scratch. It'll save you a lot of time. And bring all that together and give us a call. Give our Coalition Development Department a call. Give our Coalition Development Department a call at 1-800-54-CADCA. You guys may be familiar with Jackie Rosen Coalition Development, but now we have a Cassandra Cannon, which you guys call Met. She's really awesome, and she's eager to address your questions and help you plan up your Phase 1 application. So please. Thank you so much. I'd like to open up this time now for any questions that you may have. Remember to press *1 if you'd like to speak, as well as you're welcome to drop any questions into the conversation box. You have myself, Ms. Cassandra Cannon, and Ms. Caroline Duke here to answer any questions you may have over the next couple of minutes, as well as I will be available in the CADCA's member community for the next 1 hour for any questions that crop up that you were too shy to drop into the webinar. Standing by for questions.
Hi, I have a question. I
Yes,
wondered
please introduce yourself.
This is Kelly Edwards. I'm calling from Clinton, Connecticut. And I'm wondering if you could give us any information about deciding between long-term outcomes or coalition of the year. Can you give any information on long-term outcomes or coalition of the year? Can you give any information on that?
This is Kay Woods, so I'll answer your question first, and then I'm sure Cassandra will have something that she wants to add. But I would suggest top-loading, putting in as many of the outcomes as you can if you're direction. Should there be any issues or things that we find in your second substance abuse issue that we feel may disqualify you from Coalition of the Year, we're going to bring that up to you. We're going to work with you on that. So put everything in that you have that's sound and stable and needed. What do you think, Cassandra?
Yeah, that sounds, yeah. Carrie?
Just on the short-term versus long-term outcomes, that's partially determined by how long your coalition has been in existence, of course. But I would just, look at your data and see if you have data for over 4 years, then you'll be able to go for long-term outcomes. Whereas if you only have data for 1 to 2 years, then it's better to go for the short-term outcomes.
Okay. If we have data for 10 years, would you recommend go ahead and use the 10 years, or should we look at a smaller snapshot? Do you have any advice as far as that goes?
Yeah, if you have data for 10 years, we love to see it.
Okay.
Great.
And if you're looking to be selective, I would just say if you have one measure that you use consistently over the 10 years, or the measure that has the most amount of data available in it. So if you have a survey that you've used for 10 years, then I would definitely include that 10-year data. But if you're saying you got 10 years worth of data, but only 10 years worth of data, but only 3 to 4 years with a consistent measure, then I would take that into account and maybe lean more towards the period of time that you have the most consistent amount of data from the same measures.
Okay. We have actually the same measures for, happy to say that. I guess I'll go for that. Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Are there any more questions? Don't be shy out there. All right. If you have something that dawns on you, you are more than welcome to transition over to the CADCA members community and post them in the discussion board. I'm going to open up a thread, and as soon as we conclude this call, where you can reply and drop your questions there should anything come up. But for now, you are also welcome to give me a call at the office, 703-706-0560, extension 267. Or Cass can be reached at the same number, extension 245, as well as 1-800-54-CADCA. Thank you, guys. You have a good day.